Nostradamus's terrifying vision. The 3 days of darkness are closer than we think. Now imagine this. You wake up one morning, only to find the sky swallowed by pitch-black darkness. No sunrise, no starlight, just an endless void stretching above, as fear and confusion ripple through the world. Sirens wail, cities go silent, and time itself seems to hold its breath. This isn't science fiction. This is the haunting vision left behind by Nostradamus, one that speaks of 3 days of total darkness, a terrifying silence in the sky, and a reckoning humanity may not be ready for. And now more than ever, signs are aligning that this ancient prophecy could soon unfold before our very eyes. Welcome to the Journey of Wisdom, where we explore timeless truths and mysterious predictions that shape our understanding of the world. If you believe in seeking deeper knowledge and staying prepared for what lies ahead, make sure to like, share and subscribe, because what you're about to discover may forever change how you see the future. Number 1. Who was Nostradamus? Nostradamus, born Michel de Nostradamus in 1503 in the quiet town of Saint-Rémy-de-Provence, France, was far more than just a man of his time. He was a thinker who looked beyond the visible world, deeply attuned to mysteries that, even now, centuries later, continue to stir fascination and fear. Though officially trained as a physician and apothecary, healing the sick with herbs and early forms of medicine, his true passion stretched into the realm of prophecy, where science gave way to intuition, dreams, and the subtle messages hidden within the stars. In an era when Europe was plagued by disease, war, and religious tension, Nostradamus turned inward, developing a method of divination influenced by ancient texts, astrology, and deep meditation. His most famous work, Les Prophéties, is a collection of nearly 1,000 cryptic 4-line verses known as quatrains, each one seeming to hint at future events, some terrifying, some mysterious, and others eerily close to our present reality. Over the centuries, these quatrains have been interpreted and reinterpreted to align with wars, disasters, and global shifts, drawing believers and skeptics into ongoing debates about their true meaning. What makes Nostradamus especially relevant in today's uncertain world is the way his words seem to echo the fears and changes we face now. Political instability, climate extremes, social unrest, and the sense that something big is coming just beyond the horizon. His visions, although veiled in symbolism, touch on a deep human feeling that time moves in cycles and that patterns repeat, lessons ignored tend to return, louder than before. For many between the ages of 30 and 65, who've lived through sweeping societal shifts, from the rise of technology to the current anxieties about our planet and future generations, Nostradamus's predictions hit close to home. We find ourselves asking, are these warnings just poetic ramblings from the past, or is there a deeper call to awaken and prepare? Number 2. The Prophecy. 3 days of darkness. Let's dive into one of the most haunting predictions ever associated with Nostradamus, his chilling vision of the 3 days of darkness. Now, out of all the cryptic writings and symbolic verses he left behind, this one stands out not just for its mystery, but for the sense of deep unease it stirs. Many ancient seers and prophets have spoken of a time when the sky would shut its light, when the warmth of the sun would vanish and humanity would be left to confront a darkness both literal and spiritual. But Nostradamus's version of this event feels different, more vivid, more urgent, almost as if he saw something that others only sensed. His texts paint an apocalyptic scene where daylight disappears completely, and in that deep, unnatural blackness, chaos is unleashed. The sun shall be absent for 3 days, some interpretations suggest, symbolizing not just a physical darkness, but a spiritual one, an era of reckoning where the sins of humankind can no longer be ignored. What did he really mean by this? Was it a metaphor for spiritual blindness, or a literal event yet to unfold? Some scholars believe the 3 days of darkness may be triggered by cosmic phenomena, perhaps a rare planetary alignment, a solar eclipse that extends beyond natural limits, or even a sudden shift in Earth's magnetic field that disturbs the natural order. Others warn of more earthly causes, the aftermath of a global war, nuclear fallout, or a massive volcanic eruption that blots out the sun. Each of these possibilities, no matter how unlikely, gives weight to the idea that our planet and our civilization may not be as secure as we think. And when you take a step back and notice how closely Nostradamus' vision echoes ancient prophecies from other cultures, it becomes even harder to dismiss. Look at Christianity's Book of Revelation. It speaks of a time when the sun will go dark, the moon will bleed, and a great tribulation will descend upon the world. Hindu cosmology talks about the Kali Yuga, the age of darkness and destruction, which ends in a cleansing renewal. The Mayans, too, through their detailed astronomical knowledge, hinted at great cycles that end in transformation and upheaval. These connections raise a powerful question. Could all of these ancient cultures, separated by time and geography, be describing the same event in different languages? If so, what is it that humanity is being warned about? Is it an actual catastrophe that awaits us, or is it a mirror reflecting our inner chaos, our disconnection from nature, and the way we continue to ignore the suffering of others? Think about it. What would you do if the world went dark for 3 days? Not just physically, but emotionally and spiritually. How would you face that silence, that stillness, where all distractions are gone and you're left with your own thoughts? This prophecy may not be about doom and destruction after all. It may be an invitation, a chance for reflection, a call to awaken, because in many spiritual traditions, darkness isn't only about fear. It's also the place where seeds begin to grow, where transformation begins. Perhaps these 3 days are not a curse, but a gift, a sacred pause before something new emerges. So here's the lesson. Whether or not Nostradamus' vision comes true in our lifetime, the idea of a great darkness reminds us how fragile life is, how quickly things can change, and how important it is to live with awareness and compassion. It asks us to look within, to examine the shadows we carry, and to prepare, not out of fear, but out of love. In this ever-changing world, let us not be caught unprepared, not for catastrophe, but for awakening. What light are you cultivating within yourself in case the world ever goes dark? Number 3. Signs the darkness is near. Let me ask you something. Have you ever had that eerie feeling that something big is just over the horizon? Something that doesn't quite make sense, but your heart knows it's coming. That feeling, that quiet sense of unease, might be exactly what prophets like Nostradamus tried to warn us about centuries ago. In his cryptic writings, Nostradamus spoke of a terrifying event, often referred to as the 3 days of darkness, a time when the sun would vanish, the skies would turn black, and fear would grip humanity like never before. But here's the thing, he wasn't the only one. Across countless ancient cultures, from the Mayans to the Hopi to early Christian mystics, There have been warnings of a time when darkness would cover the earth, not just literally, but spiritually and emotionally too. So, the question becomes, are we now seeing the signs that this darkness is drawing near? Look at the world around you. Climate patterns are becoming more erratic, natural disasters are increasing in intensity and frequency, and global conflict is simmering dangerously close to boiling over. We're facing rising sea levels, wildfires that burn longer and hotter each year, and storms that strike with unprecedented force. These aren't just random events. They're signals. Could these be the very omens Nostradamus spoke of, hidden in plain sight? When he wrote of great tribulations and darkness spreading over the land, was he trying to guide us to prepare, not just physically, but mentally and spiritually, for a deep transformation? If we take a closer look, the darkness he may have meant isn't just the absence of sunlight, but the rising tide of fear, division, and disconnection that's seeping into our societies today. Think about how technology, while a gift, has also created a world where we're more connected digitally than ever, but more isolated emotionally. Political systems are more fragile, trust in leadership is wavering, and many of us are feeling lost in a world that seems to be accelerating without direction. Have you felt that too? Now, you might wonder, what can we do with this knowledge? Are we powerless in the face of such overwhelming changes? I don't believe so. In fact, I believe Nostradamus didn't share his visions to scare us, but to awaken us, to help us pause, reflect, and return to something real. Maybe the 3 days of darkness isn't just a prophecy of doom, but an invitation, a cosmic wake-up call urging us to slow down and reconnect with our inner light before the outer world grows any darker. So I'll leave you with this. What light are you cultivating within yourself right now? And when the world around you dims, will that inner light be strong enough to guide you forward? Let's reflect on that together, because perhaps the best way to prepare for any darkness is to become the light ourselves. Number 4. How to prepare. Though deeply unsettling, Nostradamus' chilling vision of the 3 days of darkness is not without a call to action. In the midst of his dark and cryptic prophecies, he offers a glimmer of guidance, steps we might take to endure what he foresaw. Rather than surrender to fear, he urges humanity to prepare, both physically and spiritually. The essence of his message is not only about surviving a mysterious event, but awakening to the profound truth that transformation begins from within. According to his writings, those who remain faithful, who take sincere steps to cleanse their lives of negativity and align themselves with higher values, may find a form of protection in that darkness. Sealing one's home, covering windows, and resisting the pull to gaze into the unknown are not only physical preparations, they symbolize the need to protect our minds and hearts from the chaos and illusions of the outside world. He seems to imply that whatever unfolds outside is not meant to be understood or witnessed by the ordinary human mind. It is beyond the veil of earthly comprehension, and thus, looking into it risks shattering one's inner peace. In a letter cloaked in mystery, Nostradamus writes to his son with solemn urgency, saying, "Pray and prepare yourselves for what is to come." These words, far from poetic dramatization, strike with the weight of a personal warning, a heartfelt plea from a father to his child, and symbolically from a seer to all of humanity. In this we hear not just a prophet's voice, but the echo of every teacher who has ever called us to wake up before it's too late. He speaks of people blinded by indulgence, lulled into comfort, unaware of the storm rising over them. It is a chilling reflection of our modern world, where distractions are endless and spiritual connection often fades into the background noise of daily stress, ambition, and consumption. The sense of false security he speaks of is not unfamiliar to us. We see it today in the way society clings to material progress while ignoring the subtle cries of a planet in distress, a people disconnected, and inner lives left malnourished. As Nostradamus continues, he speaks of the need for sacred protection, candles that remain lit in the impenetrable dark while all other lights fail. This image is striking not just in its mystical tone, but in its symbolic richness. These blessed candles may represent more than physical objects. They may be metaphors for the inner light, the strength of consciousness, and the enduring flame of faith that does not flicker in the face of the unknown. He does not offer complex rituals or arcane instructions, but instead points to the power of prayer, the purity of intent, and the depth of unshakable belief. In times of great darkness, whether literal or metaphorical, it is often our inner practices, our spiritual disciplines, and our moral compass that become our only light. He calls on humanity to stay united in this watchfulness, to hold one another in a collective spirit of hope and reverence until the angel of destruction passes by. This deeply spiritual language resonates with ancient stories of divine judgment, but here it takes on a universal dimension. It is a call to collective mindfulness, to not abandon the sacred even in our darkest hour. Yet, unlike many prophets who offer detailed blueprints for salvation, Nostradamus remains cryptic, leaving us with haunting questions. Who will be spared? What will we truly face? And perhaps most deeply, what world will greet us when the 3 days end? This uncertainty is what keeps the prophecy alive in the minds of those who reflect on it. It forces us to look inward and ask not whether the darkness is coming, but whether we are ready to face ourselves. For in truth, the 3 days of darkness could be interpreted not just as a cosmic catastrophe, but as a symbolic period of deep inner reckoning, a time when all that is false falls away, and only the soul's light remains. In our present time, many who take this vision seriously are preparing in different ways. Some focus on physical safety, stockpiling food, candles, and essentials, while others turn towards spiritual practices, meditation, prayer, and acts of kindness. But perhaps the deeper message is this: true preparation is not about survival gear, but about living with intention today. We must ask ourselves, am I living in alignment with truth? Have I cultivated compassion? Do I carry peace in my heart? Because whether or not such an event comes to pass, life does bring its own forms of darkness, loss, uncertainty, upheaval, and in those moments the same principles apply. We must seek refuge not just in physical shelter, but in our inner temple of stillness, clarity, and love. As Nostradamus describes, anguished voices echoing through the darkness and unimaginable horrors outside the safety of home, we are reminded that real transformation often comes through periods of silence, of breaking away from the noise of the world. The fearsome unknown he paints might well represent the vast chaos we face when we look outward, while the safety and light within our homes remind us that sanctuary begins from the inside out. Whether taken literally or symbolically, his prophecy becomes a mirror, inviting us to stop, reflect, and return to what is essential. In this way, the most powerful preparation we can make is not driven by fear, but by love. Love for our families, our communities, and ourselves. And so, in the midst of shadow, may we each become a small but steady light, not only surviving, but guiding others through whatever darkness may come.
Number 5. After the darkness, a new beginning. Let's talk about something that has fascinated and maybe even frightened people for generations, the prophecy of the 3 days of darkness. Now, we've arrived at one of the most powerful parts of Nostradamus' vision, what happens after the darkness. This isn't just about fear or doom. In fact, this part of the prophecy gives us something incredibly valuable: hope. Nostradamus wrote that after those long and terrifying 3 days, the darkness would lift. The sun would rise once again, and the very air around us would feel transformed, clean, clear, renewed. It's as if the earth itself had taken a deep breath and finally exhaled. But here's the thing, not everyone will be there to see that sunrise. According to his vision, only those who have endured, those who held on through the chaos, the silence and the shadow, will witness this new beginning. On the 4th morning, the heavens open, and instead of destruction, peace descends. Now, let's pause for a second. What could this really mean? Are we supposed to take this literally, as in, one day we'll wake up to a world plunged into total darkness? Or is it more symbolic, a kind of message wrapped in mystery? Think about the struggles we all face, whether personal, societal, or even global. We all go through our own 3 days of darkness, don't we? Those moments when everything feels uncertain, when we're afraid, when hope seems far away. But what if those moments are preparing us for something greater? Could the new dawn Nostradamus spoke of represent a spiritual awakening? A deep shift in how we see ourselves, each other, and the world. That's where this prophecy becomes more than just a warning, it becomes a lesson. It invites us to reflect. Are we living in a way that brings light into the world, or are we contributing to the darkness? Are we ready to face the unknown, or are we clinging to what's familiar, even when it no longer serves us? These are not easy questions, but they are necessary ones. And this is where the vision challenges us not to live in fear, but to live with awareness. It urges us to prepare not with panic, but with purpose. Because if change is coming, and in many ways it always is, then we must decide who we want to be when the sun rises again. Nostradamus' vision, whether literal or symbolic, reminds us that no darkness lasts forever. Even the longest night eventually breaks into dawn. But what matters most is what we do during the darkness. Do we let it consume us? Or do we use it to grow stronger, more compassionate, more connected to something greater than ourselves? Perhaps this part of the prophecy is less about the end of the world and more about the beginning of a better one. And if that's the case, then each of us has a role to play. Each of us can be a source of light in dark times. So here's something to think about. If the world were to change tomorrow, if everything familiar was stripped away, what would remain? What kind of person would you want to be in that moment? Would you be someone who panics, or someone who leads others toward peace? These are not just distant what-ifs. They are questions we can ask ourselves right now, because whether or not the 3 days of darkness come in our lifetime, we are always standing at the edge of transformation. Our actions, our choices, and our inner strength shape the future we wake up to. In the end, the message is clear. After the darkness, a new beginning is possible, but only for those who have the courage to walk through the night with their eyes open and their hearts strong. What will your role be in the story that's still unfolding? And here's the lesson we can all take away. Darkness, whether outer or inner, is not the end, it's a turning point. It's a moment that tests us, yes, but also prepares us for something greater. If we respond with kindness, wisdom, and a willingness to change, we not only survive it, we emerge transformed. So stay awake, stay curious, and remember, even in the deepest night, dawn is always on its way.
5 Buddhist teachings to find peace in a darkening world. Welcome to the journey of wisdom. If you've ever felt like the world is growing louder, harsher, and more uncertain with each passing day, you're not alone. From chaotic headlines to personal heartbreaks, it's easy to feel overwhelmed, anxious, and even disconnected from yourself. But in the stillness beyond the noise, ancient wisdom calls to us with a gentle promise. Peace is not gone, it's simply waiting to be remembered. Buddhism doesn't offer quick fixes or empty hope. Instead, it offers something deeper, a way of seeing, a way of being, a way of returning to yourself when everything around you feels like it's falling apart. These 5 teachings we're about to explore are not distant ideals. They are daily lifelines. They're not just for monks or sages. They're for you, right here, right now. So I invite you to slow down with me. Take a breath, not to escape the world, but to meet it with new eyes. Because in every moment of awareness, there is an opening. And through that opening, peace can begin to flow again. Let's begin with the first teaching, why mindfulness is the foundation in times of chaos. Number 1. Mindfulness is the foundation in times of chaos. In times when the world feels like it's spinning out of control, when news of conflict, natural disasters, or uncertainty weighs heavy on your heart, the first and most powerful step you can take is to return to yourself, right here in this present moment. This is the heart of mindfulness, the very foundation of peace in the midst of chaos. Buddhism gently reminds us, peace comes from within. Do not seek it without. And that teaching becomes even more vital when everything around us feels unstable or frightening. You see, the storms outside may be loud, but the real storm, the one that shapes how we experience the world, often rages inside our own minds. So what can we do about it? That's where mindfulness becomes more than a word. It becomes a lifeline. Mindfulness is not something you have to earn or find in a monastery on a mountaintop. It's already within you, waiting to be remembered. It's about paying close attention in a gentle and curious way to what's happening right now. When was the last time you took a slow, conscious breath and really noticed it? That breath, simple and quiet, is where your power lies. Instead of letting your thoughts drag you into fear about tomorrow or regrets from yesterday, mindfulness helps you touch the only time that truly exists, now, this moment. And in this moment, there is always a chance to choose peace. Think about it. How often do we go through our days on autopilot, rushing through tasks, scrolling endlessly, eating without tasting, speaking without listening? But when we pause, even for just a minute, we begin to see again. We see our thoughts not as facts, but as clouds passing through the sky. We notice the tension in our shoulders, the rise and fall of our breath, the warmth of the sun on our skin. And with that awareness, something shifts. The chaos doesn't necessarily disappear, but our relationship with it changes. We're no longer being thrown around by the waves, we're learning to surf them. The Buddha once said, "To understand everything is to forgive everything." And through mindfulness, we begin to understand ourselves. The fears we carry, the hopes we hide, the patterns we repeat. It's like turning on a light in a dark room. The room hasn't changed, but now we can move through it with clarity instead of stumbling. And that clarity gives birth to compassion, not just for ourselves, but for others too. After all, everyone is doing their best to find peace in their own storms. So here's a gentle invitation for you. The next time you feel overwhelmed, instead of reacting out of fear or frustration, try just noticing. Notice your breath. Notice the ground beneath your feet. Ask yourself, what is happening in me right now? Not to fix it, not to judge it, just to see it. That moment of awareness might seem small, but it holds the seed of transformation. What would your day look like if you brought that kind of presence to just one activity, eating, walking, or even washing dishes? Could something as ordinary as a breath become sacred again? Personally, I've found that some of my most peaceful moments have come not when everything was going right, but when I stopped fighting what was going wrong. Sitting quietly, just observing my own thoughts, without chasing them or pushing them away, has become a daily medicine for me. It doesn't make the world's problems vanish, but it helps me return to them with a steadier heart and a clearer mind. And that's the heart of this first teaching. In a darkening world, mindfulness is your light. It doesn't have to be dramatic or perfect, just real, just present. So, what would happen if you gave yourself permission to slow down today? If you took 5 minutes to breathe with awareness, or listen deeply to a loved one without planning your reply? Could that small shift ripple outward and begin to heal something greater? Remember, the world will always have its storms, but you are not the storm. You are the sky that holds it, and in every breath you have the choice to come home to yourself. As Thich Nhat Hanh beautifully said, smile, breathe, and go slowly. That is not weakness, that is wisdom, and in that wisdom there is great peace. So, I ask you, what will you choose to be aware of today? Number 2, letting go is the path through suffering. Letting go is not giving up, it's growing up. It's one of the deepest teachings of the Buddha, and it speaks directly to the heart of why we suffer. He said, "Attachment is the root of all suffering." And when we look at our lives closely, we can see it. We hold on so tightly to the things we think will make us happy. Money, recognition, relationships, control. But these things are always changing. Just like the wind shifts direction, the world moves in ways we can't predict. And when it does, our grip on what we thought was solid begins to hurt us. Letting go isn't about loss, it's about freedom. When the world feels uncertain, when fear and doubt grow louder, the answer isn't to cling harder, but to soften our grip. What are we really afraid of losing? And what would it feel like to rest in the space that opens up when we stop grasping? There's an old Zen story that helps us see this more clearly. A traveler was crossing a river during a storm, clinging tightly to a branch that had fallen into the water. The current was strong, and fear had gripped his heart. He held on, thinking the branch was his only chance for survival. But the branch began pulling him under, dragging him into deeper, more dangerous waters. A voice from the shore shouted, "Let go of the branch! Swim to me!" At first he couldn't believe it. Let go? It felt like suicide. But finally, exhausted and out of options, he released the branch. His body rose, and the current gently carried him to the shore. Sometimes what we're holding on to is the very thing pulling us under, and sometimes letting go is the only way to float. You might ask yourself right now, what am I clinging to that is no longer helping me? Is it an old resentment, a fear about the future, or an expectation that life should go a certain way? When we let go of anger, we stop poisoning ourselves. When we let go of fear, we start breathing again. When we release unrealistic expectations, we find space for reality to nourish us. This is not weakness, it's strength. Letting go is not about carelessness, it's about caring in a deeper way. We learn to care without control, to love without possession, to live without fear. That is the freedom the Buddha pointed us toward. And in the darkest moments, whether it's personal loss or global uncertainty, This act of letting go becomes a kind of inner light. You begin to realize that peace doesn't come from things going your way. It comes from the way you respond when they don't. And if this act, so the next time you find yourself in struggle, ask, can I soften here? Can I loosen my grip just a little? It's in those small choices that the suffering starts to ease. The lesson here is simple but not easy. You can't stop the storms of life, but you can learn to stop clinging to the branches that pull you under. Let go, not because it's easy, but because peace is worth it. True security, true peace, comes not from what we hold, but from what we're willing to release. So, dear friend, take this to heart. Letting go is the path through suffering. It is how we create room for wisdom, for healing, and for freedom. What will you let go of today so that something better can take its place? Number 3. Compassion and understanding light the way. Let's take a moment to reflect together. When the world feels like it's growing colder, more divided and harder to recognize, what do we hold on to? What keeps our hearts soft when everything around us feels harsh? In Buddhism, one of the most powerful answers to this is compassion. But let me be clear, compassion in this tradition is not weakness, it's not passive, and it's certainly not about letting others walk over you. Compassion is clarity. It is the courage to truly see someone else's suffering, to stand in that awareness without turning away and still choose to respond with kindness. It's a strength forged not through resistance, but through understanding. The world may tell you that survival means closing off, protecting only yourself, and hardening your heart. But the Buddha's teachings offer a different path. One filled with light, even in the darkest moments. There's a line from the Dhammapada that I keep close to my heart. Hatred does not cease by hatred, but only by love. This is the eternal law. Think about that. It's not just a beautiful quote to write down in a journal. It's a practical principle for how we live, how we survive, and how we begin to heal ourselves and each other. When someone wrongs you, when society feels unjust, or when fear is in the air, your instinct might be to fight back with more of the same energy. But where does that really take us? How much energy have we spent in anger, only to feel emptier afterward? What if, instead, we tried compassion, not just for others, but for ourselves? Let me ask you this. Have you ever had someone listen to you without judgment? Someone who didn't try to fix you, didn't rush to give advice, but simply heard you? That kind of presence is rare, and when we receive it, it can be life-changing. Now imagine being that presence for someone else. When you show compassion, even through small, seemingly insignificant gestures, you begin to shift the energy not only around you, but within you. Sharing a meal, offering a sincere apology, forgiving someone who may never say, "I'm sorry." These aren't just random acts of kindness. They are the seeds of peace. In a world that's starving for connection, compassion becomes the most nourishing gift we can offer. Sometimes people ask, "But won't I get taken advantage of if I'm too kind?" That's a fair question, and it's one rooted in a real fear. But here's the thing. True compassion includes wisdom. It's not about allowing harm or becoming a martyr. It's about choosing to respond instead of react. The Buddha taught that we should respond to suffering, not with more suffering, but with understanding. And that includes your own suffering. You see, compassion isn't just about how we treat others. It also speaks to how gently we hold our own pain. How often do we judge ourselves harshly, speak to ourselves in ways we'd never speak to a friend? What if we changed that voice inside, softened it, and gave ourselves the same kindness we long to give the world? There's an old Zen saying, "A flower does not think of competing with the flower next to it, it just blooms." This is the essence of compassionate living. You don't have to fix the world all at once. You don't have to win every argument or change every mind. You just have to bloom in your corner of the world, by living with awareness, by treating people with respect, and by choosing love, even when it's difficult. That's how light spreads in dark times. It doesn't always arrive in grand, sweeping gestures. Often, it's in the quiet way you offer your seat to someone tired, the way you look into a stranger's eyes and acknowledge their humanity, or the patience you extend to someone who's hurting in a way you may never fully understand. So let me gently ask you, where in your life can you choose compassion today? Who needs your listening ear, your forgiveness, or your gentleness? And, maybe just as importantly, where can you offer those things to yourself? It starts small, but like a single candle lighting another, the warmth grows. As we walk this path together, remember, we are not separate. Your suffering is not isolated, and neither is your joy. Every time you choose compassion, you contribute to a world where peace becomes possible, not just someday, but right now, in this moment. And if you're wondering where to begin with this breath. Begin with the next person you see. Begin with the part of yourself that still believes in kindness. Because in the end, compassion doesn't just light the way forward, it is the way. Number 4. Meditation and prayer, a spiritual refuge. In times when the world feels heavy, when news cycles are overwhelming, relationships feel strained, or personal struggles seem too loud to quiet, what we truly need is not always a solution out there, but a space within. In Buddhist practice, meditation and prayer are not reserved for monks in mountain monasteries. They are daily anchors available to each of us, no matter our background or schedule. Meditation, in its essence, is the art of returning to your breath, your body, your awareness. Just 10 minutes of quiet stillness each day can gently shift your nervous system out of stress mode, calm racing thoughts, and restore a sense of clarity that so often gets lost in the noise of modern life. You don't need a perfect space or long hours of silence. What matters is consistency and the willingness to sit with yourself just as you are. And in doing so, you begin to remember that peace isn't something to chase, but something already living inside you, patiently waiting for your attention. Prayer, as it is understood in Buddhism, is a heartfelt practice of setting intention and strengthening the light within. Unlike the idea of asking for external rescue, Buddhist prayer is more like planting seeds in the garden of your mind. You might say a few words to affirm compassion, wish for the healing of others, or simply express your intention to meet the day with patience and kindness. Over time, these small inner conversations shape the way we walk through the world, and in moments of darkness, whether it's personal loss, anxiety about the future, or witnessing the suffering of others, this practice of inward turning becomes a true refuge. It reminds us that while we cannot always control what happens around us, we can tend to the way we meet those moments. That inner sanctuary is where resilience is born. Many people today feel disconnected from themselves, constantly pulled in different directions by technology, expectations, and uncertainty about what's to come. In such a world, cultivating a regular practice of meditation and prayer is not escapism, It's a form of deep responsibility. It helps us respond instead of react. It softens the hardness that life sometimes brings, allowing us to stay grounded in our values and compassionate toward others. Whether you're sitting on a cushion before sunrise or taking a mindful breath in your car between errands, you're reconnecting with your own wisdom. And that connection doesn't just benefit you, it ripples outward. When you are more centered, you are more kind. When you are less fearful, you are more understanding. So remember, your refuge isn't far away, it's within you. It travels with you in each breath, each moment of awareness, each silent offering of intention. And in returning there again and again, you begin to shape not only your inner world, but the world we all share. As we've seen, whether Nostradamus' vision of the 3 days of darkness is a literal prophecy or a symbolic warning, its message touches something deep within us. A reminder that every moment of darkness also holds the seed of renewal. The question is not just what might happen, but how will we choose to respond? If you've found value in this journey, if it made you think, reflect, or see the world in a new light, please support this space by liking the video, sharing it with someone who may need it, and subscribing to the Journey of Wisdom. And don't forget to turn on notifications so you won't miss the powerful teachings and insights we have coming next. In a world full of noise and uncertainty, may you always find your way back to stillness. And remember, even in the darkest night, you can be the light. Thank you for walking this path with us.